So I will allow my post-secondary team to introduce themselves. And then, like I said, I'll just go over some guidelines really quickly about the format, and then we'll go right into the presentation.
Perfect. So I can start. My name is Alexis Tucker, and I work with the district in Demar High School as our Educational Associate of College and Career Readiness.
And my name is Tracy Kittle. Welcome, everyone. And I work with Mavis and our team on making sure that all of our students have suitable post-secondary opportunities after they leave high school.
All right, well, thank you. So, and again, for those of you that are just joining us, we will have these sessions every Wednesday. So it'll be open for you to join. So when you join, this is a webinar, so there's no chat box. So the only thing you have is a Q&A. So what will happen if you have a question for us, you type it in the Q&A box, the question will come to us and we will answer that question for the group. So then, you know, everybody has an idea, you know, what the question is. So we will either post it live, and if the question isn't appropriate, I will tell you, I will dismiss the question. So let's, you know, make sure we keep everything serious. There is no way for you to unmute yourself. So if you have a question, you really will have to use the Q&A box. This is a great opportunity for you to learn more about, you know, building out your college list. So we will be having these sessions every week. We have a schedule through the month of September. We will also have a October session. Right after this session, there will also be a career readiness session from our work-based learning team. And so we will make sure you have all the information you need from our end. And at the end of this session, there is a survey and an exit ticket that you will complete, and that information will be shared with your school. So this is a great opportunity. I hope you enjoy it. And again, use the Q&A box to ask us questions, and I will turn it over to my team to drive. Thank you all, and enjoy your 1 hour with us.
Thanks, Mavis. So welcome again, everyone. We're going to go over a few objectives that are going to guide the direction of our college readiness webinar this afternoon. So today we're going to be able to determine college fit based on our academic, social, and financial preferences, which we'll speak in depth about in the presentation. We're going to identify some resources for conducting a strategic and targeted college search, and then we're going to create a list of safety, target, and reach schools in our Naviance platform. So we want to begin by doing just a brief check-in. We want to know who's out there, who's in the audience, who's representing. So if you can take this time to go to the website that we have outlined, www.menti, that's with an I.com, and you can enter the join code that appears there, or you can scan the QR code that's on the presentation. So it's again www.menti.com. Use the code 2971241. Okay, we got a few seniors. Hey, seniors. We got a 11th grader, one junior so far. Okay, so our 12th graders are in the house. I love it. I love to see that you guys are here and you guys are serious about your next steps when it comes to college and readiness in your future.
Keep going, y'all. There's 60 of you here. Show up. We want to see your faces.
Yeah, yeah. Do we have any 9th graders, 10th graders, some ambitious middle schoolers? Mostly juniors and seniors, it looks like.
Yes, come on, class of, what is it, class of 2021 and class of 22, you all got to represent. Like, you got to show us you're here. Come on, y'all got to represent. Don't be quiet about it. If you're in the class of 2021, I need to see you represented in this bar. Come on.
That's
there we
not
go.
a
I don't see anybody in the class of 2023. Where are my sophomores? Where are my sophomores? Okay, my seniors are representing hard. Okay. All right, no 10th graders this session. Okay, the 11th graders, I know y'all trying to catch up, so, okay.
Awesome. Okay, great. I'm glad that you guys are here. That's about half of our audience, so guys, please continue to represent. We want to know who's out there because this session is for you. So we're going to move on to determining college fit. How do we identify colleges that are good for us? And I'll turn it over to Tracy.
Awesome. So there are thousands and thousands of colleges and universities out there. There's literally like 3,000 to 4,000 schools. And we want you guys to walk away today feeling empowered to find the right college option for you. And we want you all to remember today that you are the chooser in this process. You are not waiting to be chosen. Okay. You guys all have the power to make a decision in this process about where you're going to bring your talents next. And so today is really about helping you guys learn a little bit about yourself and to help you guys learn how to narrow down the schools that you think are going to be a good fit for you. And what colleges you like might be very different than the colleges that your friends like or other people at your school, because again, this is your process. And so it's really important to give yourself options and to approach this process intentionally. So in the CCR office, we like to say that picking a college is a lot like picking out a new pair of Jordans. There are so many different elements and things to consider. You got to think about what curves you want, what laces you want, what colors. You can think if you want retro, chunky, if you want modern, you want sleek. And so once you know your preferences, you guys will go to the store and you're going to check them out, right? You're going to touch them, you're going to try them on, you're going to walk around in them, you're going to look at yourself from the front, side, the back, and you compare them with other options and other prices, right? And so when we're looking at college, a college that might be a good fit, that the process is no different. And so in today's conversation, we really want to help you guys think through what those preferences are and how to identify a school that's a good fit for you. So to get us started, when you look for colleges, you want to think about three main categories: academic fit, social fit, and then financial fit. And so our next slides are going to go into each of those a little bit deeper. So academic fit in particular. These are some of the questions that you want to ask yourself when you're thinking about a school that's a good academic fit for you. So one of those questions would be, does this school have my major, or does it have different academic areas of study that interest me, right? Do they even have my major? And honestly, most students are going to change their major. The average is about 3 times once they get there. And so thinking about whether that school has a menu of different options that can help you get to the same destination. And the reason that's really important is I can give you an example. I had a student who really wanted to do sports writing. He did all his college research, the school he thought was a perfect fit, and he showed up Loyola University of Maryland, and there was no football team. And he was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I had like made this decision just on the major. And then he switched to engineering, and then he was like, oh, I'm not doing well with this. So then he went to communications. And so again, just making sure you're thinking thoroughly about, does the school have your major, but does it also have an alternate pathway for you? Another big thing you want to think about is if the school is the right size for you as a learner. So think about who you are as a learner and be honest with yourself about how you learn best. Do you honestly learn best in a lecture with 400 students in your class, or do you learn better in a discussion-based classroom? Because the reality of going to a large school, for example, College Park, you could be in an intro psychology or an intro bio class with 350 students. Your entire grade, 40% is the final, 60% is 40% is the midterm, 60% is the final. If you don't pass the midterm, you don't pass the class, right? And so thinking about, do I do better when I have a professor who I can speak to one-on-one, who I can go to office hours, who I can approach after class? And so those are all kinds of things to think about when you're identifying the size of the school you want to apply to as well. And then lastly, does the school have a helpful college and career center that's going to be able to provide you internships, that's going to be able to give you job opportunities, that's going to be able to connect you with other people in the field that you can do informational interviews with? Because this process isn't just about you getting into college, it's about you getting through college and being successful when you're looking for a career. And a college has an obligation to support you with that process as well. And so make sure when you're on your school websites that you're being really critical about what schools offer you once you actually get there. The next piece you want to think about is social fit. So social fit is really important because college is different than high school in how you spend your time. So in college, you don't go to the same class every day. You don't go to English 5 days a week or math 5 days a week. You might only have math on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 to 11, or English on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 1:30, and that's it, right? And so you tend to have a little bit more unstructured time than in high school. And so you really want to think about how you're going to spend that time outside of school and how you're going to be able to do that with purpose. And so one of the questions you want to think about when you're looking for a school that has a good social fit is, does this school offer clubs that I am interested in, hobbies that I enjoy? Does the school have a sports culture? If you really care about going to a school that has a sports culture, you want to make sure that you're invested in researching that. Does this school meet my diversity interests? Do you want to go to a historically Black college or university, a Hispanic student serving institution? Do you want to go to predominantly white school? Do you want to go to a tribal college? There's so many different options out there. Religious preferences. So let's say, for example, you're Muslim and you want to make sure that you can meet 1 o'clock prayer on Fridays at the mosque. What is the closest distance to a mosque, right? I had a student who had sickle cell anemia. He had to be near a hospital. And so when you're thinking about all these other pieces, really being able to identify what are the other leadership opportunities and what are the other qualities that you need to make sure that your life outside of school is also suitable for you. And so we say in our office that we think you found the right school when the school passes the smile test, which is that the school makes you smile when you're reviewing it, that you feel comfortable there, that it carries the same values as you. And so we really want you guys to take the time to think about what conveniences in everyday life are important to you and what are going to be your deal breakers. For example, I had a student who said to me, Miss Kittle, I will go any college anywhere in the whole United States as long as I can go for free. And she made it happen. She got a full ride. She went to the Claremont McKenna schools down in California. And she called me in October and she said, Miss Kittle, I've been here 2 months and there is nowhere for me to get my hair done. I have to pay for 2 buses and a train to get to LA just to get my hair done because I hadn't met anyone in the Black Student Union yet and I wasn't going to be home until Thanksgiving. And so that's a reality, right? I've had another student on the contrary who was from West Africa and she said, Miss Kittle, I've been around Africans my whole life. I want to go to a school that's completely different. I want to try something completely new. We have students who are athletes, who are physical therapy majors, nutrition majors, and they'll say, food is really important to me, right? Like that's something that is a principle and a principal value to me. And so thinking about what in your life you're willing to sacrifice and compromise on and what you are not, and you want to build that into the fabric of your college list. Oh, money.
Ms. Kittle, can I pause you for 1 second? It looks like your screen is a little off. So I think some of your, it's cut off on the side. So we can.
Sorry. Can you see it?
There we go. Yay.
His mom is so funny. She cracks me up.
That's better. Yeah.
You guys can see okay though, Mavis? Thumbs up? Okay, cool. So talking about money, this is really important because getting into college is great, but it doesn't really matter if you can't afford to go. And so sometimes when you're talking about financial fit, it means starting to have hard conversations with your family about paying for college. And I'm not just meaning talking to them about like mom, dad, grandma, auntie, like can you or can't you help me pay for school? It's also about asking them like, who claims me on taxes? Do we even file taxes? When I fill out my FAFSA, I need to know that we don't have some wonky financial circumstance that's gonna mess up my funding, right? And these are really hard conversations, I think, to have with your family, but you wanna make sure that you have them early because it's best to actually design your college list around your family's financial circumstance to make sure that you're not spending all this time writing essays and applying to colleges and then it's not a strong financial fit. And so it's actually a predictable thing that you can work with your school counselor and with people close to you on and with the college on. My recommendation is to always, always, always have at least one state school and one school that you can commute to on your list. That you think that you can get into. For example, Johns Hopkins is not a good example of that because even though it is commutable and it is technically in state, that is a school that no matter who you are in the entire world, that school is exceptionally challenging to get into. And so you want to make sure you think that the only school that you're putting on your list that's in state or that is commutable is not a very high reach. And Alexis is going to go over that in a minute. But a school like Towson or CCBC or UMBC, those are all really great options. And then diving a little bit further into your research about what kind of financial aid colleges give is another thing that you want to look at. So make sure you're looking at like the financial aid tab of your school website. And you don't want to look just at sticker price. A lot of people will say like, oh, I can only afford to go to BCCC, so that's all I'm going to put on my list. I used to work in the financial aid office at Columbia University, and we had a policy that if students were able to get in and their family made $60,000 or less, they were covered. That was the blanket rule. You can get in, your family makes less than 60, you go to college for free. And so there's a lot of colleges out there that have similar policies. There's probably like 60 to 80 colleges that have that policy. But there's also other schools out there like Bucknell College, UMD, UMBC, McDaniel, who actually have full ride scholarships just for Baltimore City public school students. And so you really want to look at that school's website and see what kind of financial aid do they give? Is it merit-based aid based on the talent that I have, or is it need-based aid based on family circumstances? And we're going to go into other Wednesday lab days into detail about all of this. So this is just an introduction, but there's also additional money that can come from special programs. So the Bonner Scholars Program, for example, two of the schools it's at is Guilford College in North Carolina and Allegheny College, actually in Pennsylvania, not in Maryland. And they have something called the Bonner Scholars Program, where it's a service-based program, and essentially they'll give you a $5,000 grant, and then you promise to provide service to them. The Honors College at Towson University comes with an additional scholarship if you get into the honors program. And so those are really important things for you guys to think about. The additional tool that you can look into is the Maryland Higher Education Commission, which Maryland, the state of Maryland, has really good funding options. So you're getting money from the state, you're getting money from the school, you're getting money from the government, you're getting money from an outside scholarship, and you're pulling that all in. And so if you look at the state of Maryland, you can get up to between $3,000 and $19,000 from the state of Maryland to go to college 100% for free. The trick is you have to stay in the state of Maryland. You cannot take $19,000 from the state of Maryland and run to Pennsylvania with it. And so that's also another option for you guys to consider. Some additional big ticket items that we want to consider is also the type of school and which school is best fit for your goals. So do you want a four-year school where you can make it a home and be familiar with kind of the same students who are all about your age and kind of want the same sense of community? Do you want a two-year school where you can sort of explore a little and then transfer, maybe earn a credential like an IT certificate or CDL license or whatever it is? And then thinking again about what your goals are, because there's multiple pathways to the same destination. You can get your EMT certificate at BCCC, or you can go into the military and have them pay for your EMT degree while you also serve and get those military benefits. We talked a little bit about size already, but to be more specific, a small school is typically a school that has less than 2,000 students across campus. So like think about what that means in the context of your high school. And we don't have any schools in Baltimore, high schools that have more than 1,700 kids, no one more than 2,000, I don't believe. And so small school would be the size of your high school or smaller. And then a medium school is going to be between 3,000 and I'd say like 7,000. A large school would have maybe more than 10,000 students, and an extra large college like UMD College Park would have about 35,000 students. Location is really big. So like I said, I used to have students that would say, as long as I get a full ride, I'll go anywhere. And then they were in the middle of rural Ohio, and they were one of only 2 Black kids in their class, and nowhere within 100 miles could they get Ethiopian food, and there was no public transportation, and they felt isolated. Other students might not feel isolated, and they might say, hey, like, Baltimore is always going to be here. I can always come home. Like, this is my opportunity to leave and try something different. And there's other students that will say, no, like, I am coming from one of the blackest and brownest cities in America, and I want to keep that. That is my deal breaker, right? And so thinking about those priorities. Lastly, test optional schools. This was a little bit more relevant before COVID because most schools right now are test optional. But that doesn't necessarily mean that these policies around COVID are always going to last forever. And so for our ambitious 11th graders or 9th grader that's here, there is a website called fairtest.org, FAIRTEST.org. And it's a list of all the schools in the country that are test optional. And that typically reflects a little bit about the school's opinion around testing. They tend to care more about what you do on in 4 years of your education than what you do on a Saturday morning. And so they tend to not ask for tests, but they weigh your GPA a little bit more. And then lastly, distance from home. So you really need to ask yourself and ask your family, how far is too far? Are you willing to get on a plane, a train, a car, a bus? Are you willing to pay for a plane, a train, a car, a bus? Because you're going to be going to campus in the fall. You're going to be coming back at least for winter break. You're going to come back for maybe spring break. You're going to have another round trip to go after campus ends in the spring, right? And so you really want to think about these costs. But then also speaking with your family, for anyone who is trying to convince their family, the family wants them to stay close and you're saying, no, I want to go far away. I'm going to give you a little trick. The state of Maryland is pretty large. And so if your parent says you can go to the state, you can go anywhere in state, well, you can drive 3.5 hours and be on the Eastern Shore, right? You could also be 3 hours and be in New York City. And so really use that to your leverage, right? Is it hours? Is it distance? And so thinking about how distance impacts. And I know, Lexus, you actually had a personal story on this as well that you were willing to share.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke to it earlier just about the cost that we incur in travel. So I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and I chose to go to school far away, about 12 hours away at Howard University, which is an HBCU. And during that time, I incurred a lot of expenses from traveling back and forth. So like Tracy said, for winter break, for spring break sometimes when I chose to come home, for summer breaks and things of that nature. So traveling on an airplane was my primary mode of transportation. We drove a couple of times. But either way, you're incurring expenses. So it's something to think about as far as like what is our plan for paying for me to come to and from school and coming back home. And now that I'm saying it, I'm actually thinking scholarships are also a really good opportunity to pay for like some of those expenses. So for example, my freshman year in school, I had a range of scholarships that I got from the institution and then also from private organizations. So actually a student they mentioned questions about sororities and fraternities. They offer a lot of really great scholarships. So I got a lot of scholarships from them, and I was able to pay for distance traveling, room and board at times. So all of that money like adds up, and we'll have other sessions that speak more concretely to scholarships. So we're going to move into determining our safety, target, and reach schools, learning more about what that concept or that framework is and how we can apply it to our college search. Okay, so safety, target, and reach schools. A safety school is a school that you know beyond almost the shadow of a doubt that you can get into. You have the academic profile, you have the GPA, you have the test scores that are needed to meet that school's admission criteria. So for example, if your GPA is a 3.5 and you are interested in going to Howard or to UMD, and then their average GPA might be a 3.5, 3.4, you're a great match for that institution. Okay, so that means that you are almost guaranteed admission into that institution based on the academic profile that you currently have. And then there are target schools. So target schools are schools that you pretty much match their profile to a T. So I probably should have used a 3.5. So a target school, for instance, if their average GPA for students who are admitted are a 3.4 and you have maybe like a 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, somewhere within that general range, you have a really good shot of getting into that school because you fall right along that school's average. For safety, let's say their average GPA is maybe a 2.8, 3.0, and you have a 3.5, that's when you're guaranteed. Lastly is reach. So reach schools are schools that you will be comfortable at, but you might have to work a little harder. Their GPA, their SAT criteria, other admissions criteria might be a bit of a reach, hence the term, for you, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible for you to get in. And that's when you want to make sure that you are the best candidate possible, not just with academics, but you have a very strong background when it comes to extracurricular activities, you're very involved in your community, and that you have a profile that speaks to you as the whole student and not just an academic.
Exactly, Alexis. And that's those reach schools are where those non-academic things are really going to pull weight. So when you by the time you graduate or by the time you start applying to school, you're going to have basically most of your academic credentials behind you. You want to think about the things you have power to kind of bring home, right? Crush your essay, make sure there is no spelling errors, be really thoughtful about it, think about what kind of leadership or extra service hours or whatever that you can get for the year. Show interest in the school. Do an optional essay if it's there. And so really think about that's how you can kind of do that extra work in order to help that reach school be a little bit more attainable. So we're going to start with a sample student here. So we have a student who's interested in applying to college, and we're going to walk through together how that student is going to create a balanced college list. So this high school's student's GPA is a 2.3. And the high school GPA, and I want to emphasize this, is the single most important factor that a college evaluates in determining if you get in and how much money you're going to get. Right? So your GPA is determining what kinds of colleges and how many colleges become options for you. And your high school GPA also indicates a lot of different things to the admissions office. It's kind of signaling things to them. It tells colleges how well you perform in high school, actually tells colleges how likely you are to perform well once you show up on campus. And so a student with a 2.3 GPA, that performance level in high school, college is going to look at that and say, okay, that's a 2.3, it's about a C- average. They say, okay, that student is likely to have somewhere around that GPA when they get to college as well, because students tend to bring those academic habits, those time management skills, that performance with them when they come. And so then the school, I apologize, once the student looks at the GPA, they're also going to look back at the transcript and they're going to say, okay, did the student challenge him or herself in class? Is that a 2.3 with all honors and AP classes? Or is that a 2.3 with a student who's chilling and taking it a little bit easy, right? They're going to look and see, did that student fail any classes? Maybe that student started ninth grade a little bit rough, the transition to high school was a little rough, but then they got the hang of it and they started crushing it junior and senior year, right? Colleges don't like to take risks, and they can only accept a certain amount of students. And so your GPA tells a college a lot of information about who you are as an academic. And I want to tell you guys why that matters. If this student has a 2.0 GPA, right, let's say that's a 70%, that student's going to go to college, and let's say that they want to be a sports writer or they want to be a surgeon. That student graduates from college with a C average and is looking for a job. Now, let me ask you this. Do you guys want someone, do you think that a hospital is going to hire a surgeon that is only successful with 70% of his or her surgeries? Do you guys want someone operating on you with a C average, right? Or do you guys want someone who feels confident, who you feel confident, right? Same thing. Do you want to watch ESPN when a reporter only knows 70% of his or her facts? No, we want someone who's a pretty sure bet, right? And so colleges are doing the same thing. And so our point here is that your GPA signifies a lot more to colleges than maybe what you think, right? And this student will absolutely have college options, but with a lower GPA, this student might have to make a few more sacrifices with their list of wants, right? The student might not get everything that they want on their list of preferences. Their GPA might limit them a little bit in getting everything versus a student with a higher GPA who can be like a little bit more picky when it comes to their options and the funding that is available. So let's take the same sample student here with the 2.3 GPA. Let's just say I'm this student, okay? So I have a 2.3 GPA. My SAT score is a 900, not really relevant right now. Thanks, Rona. This student identified that he or she, I want to stay 4 hours from home. I want a small to medium-sized school. I don't want to get on a plane to go to school. I'm interested in exploring HBCUs. I play the drums, so I really want a school that has a drum line. I want a school that has an amazing homecoming tradition and a football team. So let's talk about how I'm going to get started with my college search. So the first thing that I would do is I would probably take 2 different match assessments. So Naviance has one called Super Match that I'm actually going to demonstrate for you guys at the end of this conversation. Another one is by College Board. It's called Big Future. There's another one by Niche, Niche. They have a really great search option as well. And so let's say that I did this search based on the criteria that I just mentioned, and Cheney University, UMES, and CCBC came back on all 3 of my search engines. Like, looks like a theme. Those are all telling me these schools are probably a good fit for me. So I'm going to add this to my list. And now I'm looking for other schools. How else can I do research? Well, I have a cousin who goes to Montgomery College, and I heard that Montgomery College has a really good college graduation rate, because I remember hearing at a presentation on Wednesday lab days that graduation rates really matter. It's not just about getting into the school, it's also about identifying a college that's actually really successful at helping students graduate. And so I'm going to add MC to my list. And then I remember seeing UMES, and they had everything I wanted. They had drumline, they had the football, they had the homecoming, they're a 4-year school. I can get away from home for a little bit. And so I took a virtual tour, and I loved that. And so I'm going to add that to my list. And as you guys remember, Alexis just said, we want to make sure it's a balanced list. So I want to give myself options, some that, I'm pretty sure that I can get into, some that I think that I have a 50-50 chance of getting into, and then 1 or 2 schools that I think are a little bit more of a reach. And so I narrowed my list down to 5 schools. And the reason I want to give myself options is because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, right? So what I mean by that is that if I apply to 2 schools and one of them doesn't accept me and the other one doesn't give me enough financial aid, now what am I going to do, right? And so you want to make sure you're building balanced college lists so that the admissions and the financial aid outcomes are still going to give you options, so that you're being intentional with your choices, and so that you guys are happy no matter what school you end up getting into.
Thanks, Tracy. So now we took sample student A, and we're going to look at sample student B. So if you look at some of the academic outlines, highlights that are outlined here, you'll see that the student has a 3.3 weighted GPA. They're probably the top 10% of the graduating class. They have a rank of maybe 7 out of 162 students in their school, and they have a pretty strong SAT score. A student asked earlier about weighted versus unweighted GPA, and the weighted GPA here indicates that they've taken rigorous classes. So they've taken maybe some honors classes that have boosted up their GPA so that the college can consider both of them. So this student holds a solid B average, and they're eligible for admission to lots of different institutions because they have an academic record that reflects the fact that they've worked really hard in their classes and in their school environment. This is the type of student who, in addition to their academics, might be on the basketball team or might be involved in speech and debate. Is a very well-rounded student that colleges are going to look at and take seriously as a candidate. Can you go to the next one, Tracy? So here is their college list. This is their safety, target, and reach college list based on the academic data that we see. It's in no particular order, even though Howard should be number 1 because it's my school. But so Howard is a reach school in this case. I believe the average GPA for Howard is about maybe a 3.5, 3.6. And then underneath that, in the yellow, you can see some target schools that they have outlined. So these are schools that they fit the academic profile for, and these are schools that they can go after. The green indicates the safety schools. So like we said before, these are schools that they have, that they'll pretty much have no problem getting into, and they're great schools to fall back on. Me and Tracy actually were speaking earlier before, and we were joking, but very serious nonetheless, that you don't get to be average and qualify for scholarships or qualify for certain admission criteria. Schools want students that work hard, and that also, if we're being candid, make this school look good. So for example, if you slack off in your classes, if you don't take your academics seriously, if you come here, there, if you're everywhere, schools aren't looking at those sorts of students to brand their school or to fit the profile of the students that they are admitting, just being completely honest. So this student, like we have outlined, they work very hard in their classes, and these are the schools that they are eligible for admission for, and the scholarships that the schools might be giving as well. So we're going to move lastly into creating a college list, and I'm going to pass it back over to Tracy to outline our instructions in Naviance.
Thanks, Alexis. So up next, we're going to talk a little bit about your homework today. So we want to give you guys credit for being here. We also want to give you this time to actually begin part of your college search and application process. And so to get credit for today, we're asking students to do two things. One is a participation survey that we're going to send to you in a little bit. And so I'm actually going to share my screen. And within the next week, we want you guys to add at least 3 colleges to your Naviance account under colleges that I'm applying to. So I'm going to leave this here for you just to take a quick screenshot on your phones if you need to. But I'm going to ask you guys to sign into your Naviance account, and you can do that through the Clever portal now too. So the Naviance icon is in your Clever portal under the admissions the college readiness section. And you, if you're having any challenges logging in, you can either connect with me. My information is going to be at the end of this presentation, or you can connect with your school counselor and he or she will get you set up. But I'm going to demonstrate. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Got a lot going on. So you guys are going to log in for parents and for students. I'm going to pretend that I go to New Era. I'm going to go and be the student. And you guys used to log in here. You're now logging in with Clever. Hopefully that improvement was shared with you. You're going to click on Clever, and it might prompt you to put in your city schools credentials. Mine will probably automatically log me in. My Naviance looks different than yours. So give me a second to just kind of get to where I can see the screen where you guys are. I'm going to pick a school. That was not a good school to choose for this example. So let me go with Carver. All right. So the way that you're going to do your college research, and you're going to add 3 schools to the colleges that you're applying to, is a few things. If you forget anything I've said today, you can use this show me how function, and you can click on like how to add colleges. Let's say colleges I'm thinking about, right? And you can just click on this, and then this little robot is going to show you and bring you to each of the pages that you need to. So if you ever forget anything, just use this little show me how, and he's going to help you out. You can go to the colleges tab, or you can just click here and you can click on colleges that I'm thinking about. This student hasn't added anything. And so there's a few things you can do. Sorry, too many screens here. One is you can click on the super match option. This was one of those search the search functions that I was coaching you through earlier in this conversation. So you can talk about your must-haves, your nice-to-haves. You can search by location. So how far is too far? You can look at academics if they have your major. You can look at admissions criteria. Again, please do not underestimate your potential. A lot of students are like, oh, if I don't think I can get in, I'm not going to apply because I don't want to feel rejected. Please reach and have believe in yourselves, and if there's a dream school that you have, apply for it. Again, make sure your list is balanced. Looking at diversity and demographic information. So maybe you went to a co-ed women's school. Co-ed school, and now you want a women's school for college. You can look at costs, athletics, things like that. And so you can do the search process by going to this link. Or what you can do is, let's say you want to just look up a school because you already know that you want to apply to the University of Baltimore. So you're going to click on the University of Baltimore, and on each college's page, you can actually do a virtual tour. You can do, again, additional research about the school specifically, costs, those retention rates, those graduation rates, things like that. Naviance thinks that it's Instagram. It's a wannabe Instagram. And so if you want to move your, if you want to like add a school to the colleges I'm thinking about, you just heart it and it's going to show up. If you don't want it on there anymore, you take it off. So if you heart it, there's going to be this question that's going to pop up that you guys just saw in pink that said, do you want the college to connect with you? You have the option to choose whether or not you want them to email you, text you, bother you, whether you do or don't want to be bothered by a school. And so that's an option for you. But now if you go to colleges that I'm thinking about, the University of Baltimore is going to show up. It's going to tell you a little bit about when applications are due and things like that. So if I add, hope another school, let's see. If I add Cornell University, for example, and I want to heart that school and add it to the colleges that I'm thinking about. Now, when I go to colleges, it's going to have all the deadlines. And you guys want to think about applying early to reach schools. And I don't mean early decision, early action, which means that you submit the application, you hear back early, but you do not commit to the school. Early decision means that you have made an early decision. You are promising to go to the school no matter what they're asking you to pay. I do not recommend you choose that option. But these are all the deadlines to help you guys just kind of stay organized. The other great way to research schools, which is super interesting, is this. If you click on more, there's this tool called scattergrams. And what scattergrams does is it collects the research from all of the schools that are in, I'm actually going to go to another school, another high school. And what it does is that collects all of the scattergrams. It collects all of the data from students who have gone to your school. And so let's say that Cornell University usually requires a 3.9 GPA and like a perfect SAT score or whatever, right? Okay, Hopkins, we're gonna say Hopkins. Let's go to scattergrams. So I'm in Polly's Naviance account. So we're pretending that you guys are going to Poly right now. Let's look how their statistics are actually different from what the national average is. So what does this tell me right here about how Hopkins reads for Poly? So this is telling me that Hopkins usually requires about a 1400, and these students clearly take AP classes, so a little bit more than a 4.5, but that's not hard and soft, right? Like this student has a 1300 and a little bit lower GPA, and they're still getting accepted. So I don't want you guys to think, and you have students that are way up here that don't have the test scores of how great GPA, and they were still denied, right? And so I want you guys, you can use scattergrams to try and do a little bit of a prediction about how those colleges read and what other schools might be a good fit based on how other students in your school have performed when they applied. I believe, coming back to here, these are the steps that I just walked through. So I'm going to let you guys take a little screenshot if you want to. So lastly, to give you guys credit for today's presentation, either Mavis or we have a secret guest in our audience that nobody knows about who is going to paste the survey link into the chat for us. This is a Google survey for you guys, again, to get participation recognition. And so that will be added to the chat in a second. Looks like Mavis, if you can add that in there, or our secret shopper for today. So just complete the survey, and then we're going to share with your schools which of you have added to the colleges I'm applying to tab. So just to give you guys a heads up for what's coming up next, we are offering these supplemental workshops every Wednesday. So the titles that you see on the screen now are the next two workshops that we have in September. So the next one is going to help you identify your career interests and the multiple majors that can help you guys get there. We'll talk about like the difference between like a major and a minor and all that kind of stuff. And then the following week, we're going to talk about best practices for like writing a resume, because whether you're applying for a career right after high school or you're applying to college, you guys still need help with designing a strong resume. And then we'll also provide some writing tips that we're going to help you share around your college essay, because believe it or not, November 1st is a really big deadline for college admissions. The University of Maryland College Park accepts 90% of their students by the November 1st deadline. And so just think about, we want to make sure that we're providing you a space in order to have those best practices. Other than that, Alexis, did you want to add anything? Because this is just our information. Again, we work at North Ave, so if you guys want to reach out, we always love to hear from you. If you want us to repeat anything, if you can't get a hold of someone at school that you need, just reach out to us and we can definitely support you with parts of this process.
Absolutely, and we just want to round out by thank you for attending, thank you for joining, for your participation and engagement. We really hope that these Lab Wednesday sessions are helpful for you in your college and career going journey. And we are here if you want to send us an email. I'll even also add my college Instagram to the Q&A if you guys want to go there, have any questions. But thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you guys for joining. We greatly appreciate your time with us. Again, please make sure you do the survey so we can send the information to your school. We have a question here. Not submitting an SAT score, does that put you at a disadvantage? At this point, it doesn't. Right now, most schools are not, especially in Maryland. There are virtually no schools in Maryland that require the SAT score, the SAT, just because it just hasn't been offered. So, you know, just don't stress about SAT right now, especially if you are a senior. I would not stress about SAT. Juniors, you know, schools may change their policies when you become seniors next year. So, you know, I would just kind of keep it kind of in the back of your mind, but the SAT is not everything. Just remember that, you know, the SAT is one part. Your grades, the work that you've done for the last 4 years in high school are probably more important than anything. Your essay allows you to kind of come up off of the page. Your letters of recommendation are important. SAT is not everything, so please don't feel like the SAT is SAT over everything, and it's not. And then someone else said they can't click the link. So yes, so unfortunately Zoom is not link friendly, so you have to copy and paste the link. So copy it and then paste it into your address bar, so that way you can access the survey.
And Mavis, I would just add for the future, for anybody who's nervous about test scores, again, that list we talked about, fairtest.org, is a really great option, because those are schools that, whether it's COVID or not, they don't require the testing, so SAT or ACT. Those are traditionally, so a student who's a really good candidate for a test optional school is going to be a student that has like a 3.1 GPA and really didn't feel confident about his or her performance on the test score. So a student who has a really strong academic profile and a good transcript and a good GPA, but doesn't feel like the tests are an accurate reflection of their potential, and so therefore can apply to a test optional school. And there is absolutely no disadvantage to applying without testing to a school that allows test optional.